Call the meeting to order. It's 6:02. First, entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 28th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion about the minutes? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
4-0. Additions. We have an addition to several sections here. We have members of the public, Liza Martin, a drainage issue. Under old business, identifying the paper of record. Under new business, common use permit for the library. There is something, it's labeled proposal for dance studio, and that really isn't a discussion topic tonight. It's in the packet, and I'd like to go over that on the next meeting. Let's see, and executive session regarding personnel under VSA 313B. Okay. So we'll move right into members of the public. Liza Martin.
Do I need to stand?
No.
Okay. I'm Liza Martin. I live 1 mile north of center town on Route 35. I have some drainage ditch culvert pipe dilemmas going on up there. I was recently reading up on Act 64 of the Vermont Clean Water Act, which is to address stormwater runoff. And part of the best management procedures or practices include increasing road culverts to allow for a larger steady flow. It says, therefore, it is up to individual municipalities to address the run-on from adjacent lands into road drainage system. Improperly installed driveway culverts are a source of roadway storm damage. And it also says driveway and private access and culverts that are too small, unstable, or improperly installed can impede the flow of water in a roadside ditch and cause the road surface to wash out. There's a problem with water that runs into my field and out to the edge of the road to the culvert pipe and the drainage ditch. The drainage ditch runs on and off from Deer Ridge Road, where there is a culvert pipe on the south side because of the lake, or rather a stream comes down the hill. And then you walk all the way down the road and there's a drainage ditch that is so shallow it couldn't conduct water unless water ran uphill. There's a couple of culvert pipes. One works. It's on the boundary line of the Nilgis Phoenix property, and a little bit of water runs out of the field, not in the berm because the berm isn't maintained, it's beside the berm. Then there's the drainage just continues uphill, and it has a culvert pipe in the middle which conducts no water because the drainage pipe, or the drainage ditch rather, goes uphill. We get down to the south end, and it's where my property line meets with Phoenix's, and there is 15 feet of drainage ditch which is actually functional out in front of my property with a functioning culvert pipe. However, the volume of water is so extreme, it isn't managing it in an efficient manner. And because my neighbor reconfigured the wetlands in the middle of his property to where all the water's coming in one huge stream now at the back edge of the property, my entire piece of the field is underwater. I'm here because I would very much like for that culvert pipe either to be a larger one put in its place or a second one beside it. But what might be somewhat easier and more important is to dig out the drainage ditches. If it was dug out south of the culvert pipe another 15 feet, it would allow more water out of the field and then direct it to the culvert pipe. But I can't deal with this. I had a well put in this winter, and when the guys were digging 5 feet down, they're hitting water because so much water is running in from that field. My my sump pump runs every day, all day, has been since last fall. It used to be a little bit in March. It has been 24/7 since last October. My furnace has been 18 inches underwater twice in the last 2 weeks because of the water that is being conducted from that field through my field, through the barn footprint, which is now completely underwater, through the stockyard, through my leach field and my orchard, into my basement. I can't afford any more repairs on the furnace. I can't afford another sump pump. This isn't my doing, and being that there is a culvert pipe and a drainage ditch in place, if it were dredged according to the plan that got started a couple years ago, which has to do with Act 64, and better conducted the water, I think it would help me. I'm a farmer. I don't grow wild rice and I don't grow cranberries, and that's all that might possibly be grown in that field at this time. We set it up for hugelkultur last year, which is huge, tall mounds. There's streams running between them. The only way I could do anything is if I go up there in waders. I was mowing that with my lawnmower for the first 3 years I was there. Last year and this year, not a possibility. Fish maybe, or ducks, but I'm not into fish and ducks. I would like the water more efficiently gotten off my property, and part of this would be getting out there and actually dredging or trenching rather, all the drainage ditches the full length of the field, down to where the culvert pipes are accessible and there's water running into the field. Can I ask you something, as somebody who's ridden a horse in that field?
It used to be dry. I used to ride it all the time.
Something has been changed, and it wasn't Mother Nature that changed it. And until other things can be addressed and people can act in a more responsible manner, I need to appeal to the select board and the road department. Please trench out the drainage ditches the full length of the field, and please extend the one on my edge of the property so the water comes out of the field quicker.
Have you talked to the highway superintendent?
Who was that?
Steve Frisk.
Oh, yes, Steve and I have been talking for years about this. I thought I had to do the chain command. I thought I had to come to you and then go to Steve. And I thought if I went to him first, he'd have to turn around and come right back to you. Because I've been waiting for dirt from all the ditch dredging for 3 years. And haven't gotten any of that either.
I think you need to spell it out to him what the problem is. He can come down there and visit. He's going to have to report to us as to what we can do and what we can't. There's only certain things that the town can do on town property. That doesn't include going on to private property.
No, I don't expect anybody on my property, but I do expect that the equipment finally get moved down to that part of town and the dredging starts. What is the wait? They've been up on Hall Roads. All last year they were up there doing that. Nobody was doing anything anywhere else in town.
There is grant funding that takes care of that, and it has to be done with a closing date of what you're talking about. And it has to be finished. You have to get it done when you start it, or you don't get it paid for. So until you point this stuff out to Steve, and Steve can give us a report on what we can do, there's not much we can do about it. So, did you have something?
One thing that I would ask is, probably 5-6 years ago you were here and you had mentioned having the ditch at the edge of Route 35 cleaned out, and I believe Steve and those guys did, and it at first helped you out. Has it been decreasing in helping you out since then, or has it?
I'm sorry.
Or has it? I mean, when they cleaned it out the last time, has it filled in with silt, or is there a different situation? Or because I know that before when he did that for you, it kind of mitigated your problem.
At the time, it was the culvert pipe itself which was blocked on both sides of the road. Culvert pipe isn't blocked. They did come up with a backhoe or an excavator and clean out near where the culvert pipe goes under. Nothing's filled in. It's inadequate. It's not long enough. Basically, it's the only deep part of the whole ditch from Deer Ridge Road down to my property, but it's only 15 feet long. And as I said, everything else is so shallow. And then Phoenix has put in 2 roads through the stone wall and put culvert pipes under those roads. But the thing is, the culvert pipes are even higher than a shallow ditch. And as we all know, water doesn't run uphill. So water has never been in those ditches at all.
May I say something? Just as
Absolutely.
somebody, I've walked the dogs by there. I've noticed that along the back of the property, it's like a field, and it's always been kind of wet towards one end. But there's this huge amount of water back there now that didn't ever used to be there. I don't know what has changed about, maybe, I don't know what has changed, but, yeah, I used to ride in there, and I walked by there recently, and, the property itself has changed. For some reason, the water on the property. I don't know that you're gonna be here for this, I just figured, because I've
It
seen
may
it.
need something like an engineering study. I don't know.
I know, I'm trying not to point fingers, which is why I'm not sharing everything, but what I am here for is to ask the town to dredge the entire length of the ditch and to do something about the water getting in the ditch and to the culvert pipes. There are culvert pipes that go under the road, but water doesn't go through them, and it doesn't because the ditches aren't deep enough, and it's been that way all along.
Okay, well, the best advice I can give you is contact Steve, ask him to come out. He'll take some photographs of it, and we'll do what we can.
We did that several years ago.
Well, we're gonna have to do it again. That's basically it. We're gonna have to do it again, because regulations change. If the culvert pipe is undersized and causing a problem, then then a bigger one can be put in. Otherwise, it has to go on whatever the priorities are.
I'd make a motion to ask Steve to go up there and to dig out the ditch where he did the last time, which seemed to help, which I was a kind of a semi-proponent against when you asked the first time. And since it worked 6 years ago, have him go up and dig that, and then go from that culvert north towards Swan's property or Phoenix's, whatever way you want to put it, and dig some of that back. And it might take him 4 or 5 hours, and it might fix your problem, and if it does, great, and if not, then we go on with the engineering study.
Yeah. And that may not even be a necessity. It's just, I don't know enough about construction and what the state regulations are for how big the culvert's gotta be based on how wide the road and how much water it entails. That's what those people are for.
I second the motion.
Okay.
I would think that the culvert is sufficient because it passed the grade of the Better Roads grant.
Yeah.
So the culvert size isn't the problem. There might be something impeding it, keeping the water backed up.
Well, we certainly
So
had
if we
enough of
just give it
those.
a quick dig out, takes whatever amount of time, and if it cures the problem, then we're good to go. And if it doesn't, then we can go from there.
We certainly had enough storms and significant storms to blow stuff into that over the last couple of years. So, yeah, we can do that. So we've got a motion.
Katie
It's been
seconded.
seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. 5-0. Okay. It might not work, but then again, it might work. We'll see what happens.
Thank you.
All right. The next one. Under Highway Department. Steve, are you there?
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay, before I start, I would just like to make a comment to Liza. As far as the ditching goes that we've been working on for the last 5 years, the town of Townsend, nor myself, determine what road gets ditched. This is done by a study from the state of Vermont and Wyndham Regional, and they have picked every segment of road that needs to be ditched and stone lined before December 30th, 2025 for the town to be in compliance with Act 64. That section of Route 35 is not on the list of very high priority, which is where our focus has been with our grant money. We will do what the board just voted on. I just wanted to explain to you how each segment has been determined, whether it needs to be ditched or not. It's done by the state, not by the town. Okay, number one.
Yeah.
Jeremy Lombruski is asked to return to the town of Townsend as a full-time employee. the new members of the board, Jeremy worked for the town of Townshend for 3.5 years before he left for another job, which was approximately 1 year ago. It was a seasonal job. Because we were short-handed, Jeremy agreed to plow for us this past winter, which he has done, and he's saved us through this past winter because we're short-handed. And he now wants to come on effective immediately, full-time. I strongly urge that the board votes to hire Jeremy back as a full-time highway employee.
Okay.
Seconded. Or do you need a motion?
I thought we were gonna deal with this in executive session, but if you want to take it right now.
No, that's
anybody-
fine.
Okay. We'll take care of it in executive session, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Did you?
I have a job interview scheduled for 7:30 Thursday morning with another candidate that came in through Indeed. Thank you, Rob Swigert. Grading started last week and is continuing this week as roads dry out. We've been able to get the grader out to start shaping up roads. Pre-clearing is continuing, especially with the snow banks and the higher elevations melting. More and more debris is becoming exposed, so we just continue bouncing around, cutting up brush and chipping. Connie and I have been working very hard on an RFP for the Stone Arch Bridge. Because part of this project is federally funded, the RFP is very extensive and very complicated, and we have another meeting with the team on Thursday afternoon to continue this process. And finally, my paving plan. I'd like to discuss with the board my intentions for paving this year. I would like to pave Route 35 from the intersection of Route 30 up to Valley Cares. The section of Route 30 from Route 35 from Route 30 to Messenger Valley Pharmacy has to be milled because the asphalt is already up to the top of the sidewalk. So if the board agrees, I'll put together the RFP for paving that section of road.
What I would like to know is what would be the difference if we milled from the junction of Route 30 and 35 all the way to Valley Cares?
Then the amount that we get to pay will be shorter because we have to pay for the milling.
But we have brought the road bed up in that section quite a bit through the years, and it's quite a jump to go off the road into the driveways.
Well, yes. I mean, the town has had to work on aprons and shoulders, so the transition from the road to driveways isn't so significant. This is true, yes.
Do you have any idea, Steve, how much that'll cut back on the amount we can pave if we mill that?
Problem is the price of asphalt. The asphalt plants have not opened yet for this year, which is why Windham Hill is not repaired yet. Basin Brothers has gone out to look at Windham Hill. We talked about cutting out the bad section and putting in gravel, but because it's a downhill stretch of road where people drive 50 miles an hour, we'd have to be grading that section of road every 2 days. Section to be cut out is 11 foot wide by 70 foot long. So the consensus between Basin Brothers and myself is to leave the blacktop in place with the cones and the sign until the asphalt plant opens. Once the plant opens and we get current pricing, I can give you a better idea of what the footage is going to be, of what we can do.
Okay. Anything else for Steve? Okay. Steve, we got in here and I don't know, did this go out to him yet about the lines, or not the lines, but the crosswalks? Okay. Steve, we got a thing that came in from the Wyndham Central about the crosswalks on 30 and 35. We don't deal with the 30, correct?
We do not.
Okay. What they're asking for is that some of the crosswalks on 35 are either no longer there or so faded that can't be seen. Could you take a look at that and see what that's gonna take?
Sure would. Well,
Yeah.
Steve's still there. I got something too.
Hold on one second.
Sure.
Abby Larson at Wyndham Central is the one, if you need any further information with that. Okay,
Okay?
go ahead.
This is emergency management related. While the snow has melted, that last storm, many people couldn't use the roads for days. And in terms of emergency management, we should be looking at this as a exercise to see what we can do to make sure that it doesn't happen again. In other words, use it as a learning experience, not pointing fingers, trying to learn from what happened. Because we have mutual aid, I believe. We should also have a list of qualified contractors that can help us out if we're short-staffed or we're down on equipment. My point is, from an emergency perspective, if someone needs help, they wouldn't have been able to get there. I couldn't get out of my driveway for more than 3 days. I live on a dirt road. Other people around town lives on dirt roads. We need to use this as a way of learning from what just happened. And that, I think, is something that the town needs to address. Besides the very first thing that the town does, which is schools, that's the most important thing that we do. The roads are second. We need to be able to use them in emergencies, and we couldn't this time. When the crews were working on West Hill Road, they had it blocked, and I had to go up through through Wardsboro and then through Newfane. When I got to Wardsboro, it was like I landed in a different planet. The roads were perfect. The wings were out. It was 2 cars wide. My road wasn't 2 cars wide for more than a week. If 2 cars met you, someone was going to have to back up. And I worry about emergency equipment getting up and down our roads. We need to use this as an example of something we can learn from.
I think if you, not to cut you off, but if you come back April 25th, we have Green Mountain Power coming, and that will help with what you're trying to put through to us is the emergency management plan.
It had to do with the roads.
No, I don't think you...
Robert was the roads.
Okay.
Like I said, if you went to Wardsboro, half a mile up West Hill,
Well,
it
takes
was
us one
as if
tree
I was in
ball.
a different planet.
One tree. One tree that somebody can't get through, and that's what would cause the road crew to not be able to make that trip. Or the part where they went to another road and they got halfway through and had to turn around, back up, and do a jig. I mean,
So in 2008, during the ice storm, my road was permanently blocked for about 100 yards with a blowdown. I went out there with a saw, and after about an hour I realized I wasn't going to get this done for a long, long time. Clerk comes by, front end loader pushes everything off to the side. Your point is well taken. We had a lot of trees, branches down. From an emergency management perspective, this is something we have to be able to address. It doesn't happen all the time, but it did happen, and for days we couldn't use our roads.
Do you understand that the emergency responders couldn't get to it, including the highway crew?
That's my point.
Well, hold on, Bob, hold on. We had a situation that does not happen very often in this area, where you couldn't have moved a truck, highway truck, fire truck, any truck, because everywhere you turned there were wires down all over the place, and you can't touch a tree, a branch, anything else with wires down. You don't know if they're active, and the tower company wasn't getting to them. So yes, there were a lot of people stuck. There's nothing more or nothing different we could have done in that particular situation to resolve the issue. That's why we didn't open a shelter down here. That's why we didn't have a warming shelter in this town, because we couldn't get to them. There was no power in this building. So, I understand what you're saying. Not going to agree with you, but I do understand what you're saying. And we do the best we can with free help. You know, you're not talking about having 20 people available just to deal with that. If we had 20 people, we probably could have gotten the roads cleaned up, but we also would have needed 20 wire crews and the same thing of tree cutters to get things opened up so our guys could get through. I can't speak for Wardsboro. I wouldn't speak for Wardsboro or anybody else.
So as a board, on April 25th, we have Green Mountain Power coming down to talk with us about what they can help us with as far as what you're bringing up, and I'm sure what Glenn would bring up, and anybody else, about getting, all right, fine, we don't have 100 gallons of gasoline at our house to power a generator, you know, but we need to be able to egress and regress our property with the idea that, okay, we don't have power, but could we please at least go down and get 5 gallons of gasoline or a hot coffee, or go to a warming shelter, or go south to where whatever's going on, that it's not like this. So what our point is that you're talking to us about what is already on our hot plate, and, you know, we're working on it. And it's like,
That's what I wanted to hear.
You know,
we're working on it.
we don't have the answer right now, but on the 25th, Green Mountain Power is going to come help us with ours, and hopefully between Glenn and the fire department and the town road crew and us and the people that are working with the town, that we can come up with a plan that, you know, hey, not everything's going to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be totally dysfunctional on all accords. And I mean, Route 30 needs to be passable. You know, could we get electric down here first and then work to the tributaries from there? Those types of things.
And to Sherwood's point a minute ago about a woman's shelter, there were people who I talked to, I said, without power, how did you handle it? Do you have a wood-burning stove? No. We got in bed, put a lot of blankets on top of us. This all needs to be factored into the emergency management plan going forward. And you just said we're working on it. That's what I wanted to hear. Because all of these things should work into that plan.
And it's not all doom and gloom. I heard a great story about, I don't know what the state trooper's name was, but he went from South Wardsboro Road, walked up to Eddy Road, all the way to the very end, and just checked on a guy, and the guy refused help. And the trooper shoveled his door off so that he could open the door up and get out of his house, and went on his way. And he walked the whole entire way from South Wardsboro Road up there, and it's half a mile or better. So it's not total doom and gloom. There's a lot of people out there looking out for people and doing the best they can. And, you know,
And that's a very good thing. But again, the plan needs to look at this and say, okay, what did we learn from this? Let's move forward. Shouldn't happen again.
Well, it's been happening for 200 years, the storms have, so it's like, I mean, we just, you know.
Like I said, I've lived here for 22 years on that road, gone through some major calamities, Irene, the ice storm, there have been a bunch of things. This is the first time I couldn't get out of my driveway for more than 3 days. First time.
Well, you need to better prepare.
And to your earlier point, that's what I was doing. I needed to get out for fuel.
My point is that the roads should be opened up, power restored. That happens when it happens.
We should learn from this. That's the point. We should learn from this. And to your earlier statement, we're working on it. Perfect. Put all these things together.
It is going to happen more often. Everybody knows that climate change, I mean, maybe none of you agree that climate change is occurring, but we're getting all these predictions that the storms are going to get worse. We're going to have more problems with the weather. So it's something that is going to be happening probably more often than we would like. And it would behoove us to maybe, you know, start thinking in terms of, okay, if it does keep on happening, how can we address it in a better way? And it sounds, and as he says, if you guys are working on that, that's wonderful.
April 25th.
Yep.
They should be here.
Yep.
Please be here, please be here, please be here, please, 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 anybody else?
Everybody out there.
Anything else for Steve?
One last thing. You mentioned about Green Mountain Power. I take my hats off to Green Mountain Power because they did a wonderful job in most instances And I take my hats off to the select board as well. You all do a very good job as volunteers. I know there's a check there, but it's volunteer work, I understand that.
Okay, anything else for Steve? No? Steve, do you have anything further?
Am I still unmuted?
Yes, you're unmuted.
Connie, just send me an email tonight, please, telling me what Jeremy's status is.
Sure, yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. All right,
Night.
let's back up to warrants. Katie, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to pay the warrants. Number 1, payroll in the amount of $10,932.84. Number 2, payroll taxes in the amount of $4,253.20. Number 3, special payroll in the amount of $1,000. Number 4, special payroll taxes in the amount of $153. Number 5, general fund in the amount of $14,539.04. Number 6, highway in the amount of $1,125. Number 7, highway equipment in the amount of $6,782.94. Number 8, ARPA in the amount of $39,257.98 for a total of $78,044.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
May I ask what the ARPA funds were spent on?
Project that was identified first in the town clerk's office.
Really? Not during a select board meeting?
It was in the town report.
Yes, it was. It was designated in a select board meeting.
Oh, digitizing. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. What was it?
Okay, so we have total warrants $78,044. We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. 5-0. Okay, next one, treasurer's report. Treasurer's report right now on the true fund balance in the accounts is $280,342. And in the M&T bank accounts, $1,242,516.37 and $30,000 in the municipal checking account. The next one is town clerk. Town clerk has, for her services counter, brought in $1,556. All right. Now, as Rob has said a couple of times, on the 25th, Green Mountain Power is coming to present at the select board meeting about the situation that happened with the storm. Anybody's welcome to come and ask their questions to the power company as to what happened.
Or they could take and write them in and put a name with them and submit them through Connie Hall. But please put a name with it.
So now what we need to do is move on to old business. There's a correction in the appointments. Apparently at the last meeting, the appointment of Kathy Hege was not clear. It was to the rescue board, and appointment letters will go out to everybody that was appointed probably within the next week. And we have to establish the paper of record. Now, on the last few years, it has been the Commons is the paper of record. It's been an expense thing, and we haven't had any problems that I'm aware of. Are you aware of any problems with it? We haven't had any problems with getting things out, correct, Connie? They've been fine. So, entertain a motion to establish the Commons newspaper as the town of Townsend's paper of record.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-0. All right. So the next one is the fire chief is here to talk about this stack of papers that you have. And what this is a bid specification for the new fire vehicle to be submitted to manufacturers to see what they can do for us for cost.
So, I think everybody knows me. If not, Glenn Beatty. So, yes, I believe you have received the packet of the proposed bid specs to go out. And I believe there's a copy of the rating system is not in there.
There's a copy, the letter with the, how it's being broken down, but
How
there's
the-
not a model.
Okay. So what we're asking is that the select board approve this so we can actually send it out and receive bids back on what this new engine will cost the town of Townsend. I believe in there is a paper in the front part that shows how the committee would rate the different criteria of the bid responses we get back, and then that's how we would determine what we recommend to the board as far as purchasing. So basically, I'm here to see if I can answer any questions. I don't know how much time you guys have had to look through it. It takes a minute or two to read through it.
Well, it's only 64 pages, so.
That's one-sided, stretch it out.
Yeah,
Speed
Well,
reading
at,
skills.
At town meeting, it was said that we needed the truck to maintain our ISO rating. As someone who has used ISO ratings in the past, I spoke to someone last week, a friend, who at one time did the ISO ratings. ISO ratings does everyone know what ISO ratings are? Are
No,
you familiar?
please enlighten us.
Insurance office rates the fire fighting capacity of towns, and they do it based on a number of criteria: communications, infrastructure, meaning the fire station, all the different components of the fire station, as well as, and the key element is your water supply. That's the key element. And when I heard that we're getting a new vehicle, the apparatus based on ISO, water is the key here. And a couple of weeks ago, Andy Snelling and I were just shooting the breeze, and Andy said to me at one point, why don't we put a water tower on the hill near where the cell tower is? And I thought, what a great idea. Gravity, there was water up there. I know there's a spring up there. So if we really are interested in ISO ratings for town, water supply for the village area, the town area, would be the far better way of doing that. But Glenn and I had a short conversation after town meeting, and the vehicle, because we've got a fire station, it's got height restrictions, is going to be a low rider. And knowing that town has got somewhere between, I don't remember exactly, 54 and 64 miles of road that we plow, probably about 80% is dirt, meaning 20% is paved. This is going to be a great vehicle for the paved roads. Because during significant parts of the year, you need ground clearance, you need all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. I know some of our current equipment has got lockers and chains on it, and that makes a big difference. But again, thinking out of the box here, I've been to many municipalities that have got old equipment. If you're doing the required NFPA annual pump test and other things maintaining your equipment, you're okay. If you get in and you turn the key and it doesn't work, that's a big deal. If your pump doesn't work, that's a big deal. But just getting a new piece of equipment because we want a new piece of equipment, nah. You got some good equipment, maintain it, do a good job taking care of it. And put a water tower up there using the reason I say this, use the ARPA money for something that you can use ARPA money for.
So,
Well,
I understand.
just 1 second. ARPA money was cleared to be used for this project, so don't even put that out there. ARPA money was cleared to use that project, and are you gonna apply for the Act 250 permit to put that tower up there? And buy the property?
You were talking about ISO.
I'm not talking about, I didn't say anything about ISO. I said, not, you said ISO. What I'm talking
Town meeting,
about,
let's listen again to town meeting, but okay.
let's stop right here. The water tower requires an Act 250 permit. It also requires,
We were talking off the top of our heads.
fine,
Nothing.
but we have a limited amount of time in which to spend that money. And daydreaming about something that won't happen for 10, 15, 20 years or never doesn't help. Right now, we need to transport that valuable water from one place to the other. And the only way you do that is with a vehicle. Okay? One of those vehicles is a failed pump test. $60,000 to replace that pump. Can't use it for first line. Now, you're willing to tell me that you're going to put the lives of people that are volunteering to fight those fires, that might be your fire one of these days, on something because they can't get water, they can't transport the water to the scene, they can't get this pump fixed? I mean, come on. You want to be real, be real. Go ahead.
I, for one, very much appreciate the volunteer firefighters in this community and every community. That is paramount. But ISO is not part of the equation. Shouldn't be.
Never did. Don't worry about it. Go ahead, Ron.
Also,
Okay. So what this...
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
would this fire truck that you want to get be able to get out to these places if it was like snow or mud?
Depending on the road, I mean, you know, pick your storm.
my part.
Mud season's mud season. What are you gonna do? It's a short, you know, generally, how long are the roads truly impassable during mud
Well,
season? I
do-
mean, there's
do your
a
other
week or
trucks
so.
get to 'em? Can your other trucks get through? The ones that you have now, that you put chains on?
We're gonna try. That's all I can tell you.
You haven't had any experience with having to get out and fight a fire during mud season so far?
So far, we've been fortunate enough to be able to make it where we need to go.
With the trucks that you have now, that are,
Yeah.
have a more of a clearance? Is that the case? I mean,
I-
does the other truck have less clearance?
I haven't got the actual, we haven't received that tight of bids back to us as far as like, you know, what it's gonna have for actual ground clearance. What we're worried about is we can't have a truck that won't fit the station.
We need a new station.
That's our problem.
Well, everybody knows we need a station.
Right, but that's, you know, and I'm not gonna deny that.
So where is the cart and the horse?
And no, to answer that, we did start looking at a building. And the preliminary prices that we got back, we can't even bring that to the town. And then COVID hit, and, you know, look at the prices of everything. I mean, and we can, certainly, if, you know, the town was to say, no, we're not gonna do this, I mean, that's the town's prerogative, they can take that position. What I don't see is prices coming down anytime soon. I mean, they're going up every day.
But this is basically a done deal anyway, isn't it? The fire truck, isn't it already a done deal? Didn't it already get?
No.
It states right in the bid specs, at least 2 if not 3 times, that at any point, the select board has the ability to accept or refuse any bid in part or in whole. you know,
The only
by
thing
no
about it-
means. I mean, if the bids came in at $1 million for a new truck, which that's what a lot of them are running right now, I'd be having a real serious conversation with the select board when it came to recommending a new truck. And unfortunately, we're not gonna see those prices come down. Once the prices go up, I mean, look at the average car, not to pick on Subaru, but they used to be, what, $20,000 brand spanking new, driving off the lot? What are the prices now? I bet you can't buy one for $20,000. I mean, nothing, once it's hit that price, that it's not coming back down.
Well,
So we can kick the can down the road as long as we want to, but it's not gonna get any cheaper.
Well, the thing, I'm just wondering how much of a concern the clearance should be.
Well, I've heard, is there any price difference in having to have a smaller or lower truck to fit in this fire
It
station?
is more expensive, yes.
Custom.
So there's a customization that's required, that if we just had a standard, if we were just like checking Amazon for a fire truck, it would be cheaper. Obviously, I know we don't order them on Amazon. But the specification of it fitting into this firehouse is going to make it more expensive.
Yeah.
And so the firehouse that needs to be replaced at some point.
And that's
So
why in
that's the part.
2018, we, with the truck committee started then, because it's not the ISO rating that, well, yes, they do call me every year and they do check on to see which trucks we have, how much water they hold, their current status is. We go through that every year. It's the NFPA's recommendation that every 20 years your frontline vehicle be replaced. That's
Laura, just, all this thing does, this 100 pages of document does, is find out what the prices are. This is what we need to fit inside of the station we've got. There's no done deal to any of it. We can refuse what comes out of this, or we can accept it. So, no, in response to your comment there, it's not. We need to know what the playing field is as far as how much it's gonna cost to get a vehicle that will work here.
So if you decide that it's not going to work because it's going to be too cost prohibitive, does that mean that those ARPA funds are freed up to go to something else?
If we are able to do it in the amount of time.
Yeah, which is
One of the things-
2025, I think,
No.
right? What year, when?
We have to have them dedicated by 2024. They are dedicated now. If we don't use them by 2026, we have to send them back. Go ahead, Rob. You've been trying to say something.
Well, what I was gonna get to is, all right, we get a low rider fire truck. Now, this isn't the first time that we've ever had mud. Now, if you were going to fight a fire and you had a low rider fire truck, and you did the same thing you do every year, is you go just as far as you can, and then from there you work on your pumps, right or wrong. So like, I mean, if you got within reasonable distance, what my point is just because you get a lowrider truck doesn't mean that you stop fighting fires on mud roads. You go until you can't go anymore, and then you work with what you have. It's not that you guys just quit and pack up and call it good enough, and it's like we can't get there. So my point is that you guys, no matter what you have for equipment, are gonna go to whatever the call is. Whether it's a car accident and somebody needs to be extracted, or it's a frickin' 18 buildings on fire, you're gonna go there and do what you can do. And the best thing that you can do is keep up with what you said with your codes, where you need to have some sort of first online equipment that is under 20 years old. And you don't have that right now, right?
That's correct.
So this is, we're looking at specs for something that fits in the building, whether it goes on every road at the worst possible condition, okay, fine. It's like there might be some soup hole out there that you can't get to, but 95% of the time you're gonna be able to go to that with this piece of equipment from this bid right here. for 660 something thousand, 330 coming from ARPA. We've raised however much every year and, you know, whatever it is. And our point being is buying this truck brings our fire department in line with what they need to have to be an actual fire department. And that's a truck that's in the 20-year range, which would be brand new. So for 20 years from now, we have a first line piece of equipment that we're paying for. And half of it's coming from ARPA. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's correct, and there's been times at, I don't know how many town meetings this has been brought up. I can tell you it was brought up, oh my goodness,
It's my ninth
over
year
20 years ago,
Oh.
that, you know, the $10,000 being put into the reserve fund for the next engine, and that's the whole purpose of that. And it came up to be that you used to be able to buy an engine for brand new for a couple $100,000. And when that last one came in, the chief then, he told everybody at town meeting, $10,000 is not enough. You will not buy the next truck with this. We have since at town meetings brought up that we're not putting enough money into this fund. And overwhelmingly, there was members of the public, which they have every right to do, voiced opposition because it was too cheap to go out and get a municipal loan. So that's where we're at.
Well, I'm not,
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
savvy with a lot of this stuff, so what do you mean too cheap to get a municipal loan? I don't
It
understand
was
that.
cheap, it was, instead of putting their money into a reserve fund, so people's taxes can stay as level as possible, especially those on a, you know, say a fixed income. If you start going and purchasing things on credit, you have no idea what your taxes are gonna be that next year. But that was, the idea was you could get a municipal loan for, you know, cents on a dollar. So it was foolish to put money into a reserve fund.
Okay, so what you're saying is the municipal loans have very low interest? So
That's
it's
my
hard to
understanding,
behoove
yes.
people to towns to go to that particular source because it wasn't that costly, as far as interest was concerned. Well, and what are they now? Have they changed?
Of course, they go up, the changes with interest rates.
Ah, okay.
One reason why we bought that truck for the town yard, or the highway department, in full, was to avoid having a municipal loan based on how shaky the economy was appearing at the time. And it's still shaky. We wouldn't have been able to buy that truck. If we had to finance it, we wouldn't have been able to buy that truck as cheaply as just paying for it when we had the money in the reserve accounts. So, yeah, that's the balance you have to take is, do you capitalize on what we've saved plus what we've come up with in these ARPA funds, or do you try and finance it? And, you know, we're still paying on it, on the highway garage, and I can't imagine that we would pay off a fire truck at what it's gonna cost in the 20 years before it's not, you know, before it should be replaced again. So those are the decisions that had to be made with this stuff in order to keep things kind of on an even keel.
And the other one with it is when you have a group of people that are asking for you to have trucks that are newer than 20 years, with everybody screaming negligence on different things, it's negligent to ask Glenn and his guys to go fight a fire with a garden hose and a water, or a bucket of water. Give them the best equipment that they can get, and if it saves your life or your kid's life or your family or your neighbor or whoever it is, it's worth, or their life. You know, I mean, we're doing what we can do to come up with the money to try to keep things mitigated as far as like extreme cost. And, you know, we're not going to be able to do 1.3 and plus million on this place and build a fire department and buy $700,000, you know, fire trucks all at the same time. We gotta be thinking outside the box and going with ARPA and doing the different things. And I mean,
But have you,
we thank you for asking the questions, but try not to act like we're kicking the can down the road or spending frivolously here and there.
I'm not trying
See,
to.
the point that I was raising is that I don't think we are giving the guys the right equipment. That's my point. I want them to have the right equipment.
But you were just worried about whether they get through a dirt road.
Exactly.
Bob.
So
How long has, yeah, but how long has the fire, hold on, how long has the fire department been around? And the roads have been muddy the whole entire time that the fire department's been around. So it's like, whatever the roads are, that's what they are. We need to find the equipment to fight the fire, and then from there, these guys figure out how to get it done.
I want them to have the best equipment. That's not gonna be the best equipment, I don't think, based on some simple discussion.
Well, you just got done saying there's 64 acres of roads, or 64 miles of roads, and I think 54 of them are dirt, so 10 are paved. And we know the 10 that lowrider will get through, and I'm pretty sure a serious amount of the other ones they'll get through too. I mean, it's been the same forever.
What compromises are we making on this? That's my question, that's my point.
The compromise is we don't have a firehouse to just buy a regular truck.
I have an idea what kind of business you have. How about a Subaru Brat for moving some material around? Would you like a 4-foot bed instead of your...
The big difference is that when I want to move something big, you know what I do? I go down and to Key Bank and I get a loan out for a serious amount of money, and I get my own truck. So when you're talking to me on that part about what I do, that's what I do. But when it comes to the town, I try to figure out a way that it's going to mitigate all of our taxes going up and being ridiculous. At the same time, working with what we have. So if you're asking me on my personal part, that's what I do. And with it, they give me this big booklet. And each time I pay, I rip out a little thing and I hand it into my check.
Still using coupons, not electronic anymore, huh?
I am in the past, buddy, in the past. There is dust on my shoes. And you want to know what? I have had no bank wire fraud yet.
You're not using a wire.
Not yet.
No, okay. All right, so what we're here to do tonight, and because I'm on the executive committee of the fire department, I won't be voting, is to approve this document to basically being sent to the manufacturers right now of five different companies. This document has been worked on for better part of a year.
This go around, yes, yes.
So there's a lot of things have been gone through. A lot of these questions have been brought up as to what's the best piece of equipment that we can have for what we have in money. So I guess I would entertain a motion to accept this document that has been provided by the fire department and to transmit it to the companies that can actually tell us what they can do the vehicle for.
Second.
So moved and second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, I'm abstaining.
One abstention, or two abstentions.
2 abstentions. So motion carries. We'll get that out in the mail tomorrow. All right. Next up. Common use request. The library would like to use the common on July 7th from 9:30 to 12. They don't say what the program is, but this is a town, basically a town function, so, entertain a motion to allow the library to use the common, and there's no conflicts on the 7th.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, one thing, because it's a town function, we would waive the fees. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Okay. Next up. All right, under D, under the agenda, there's a company.
The emergency management.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Well, let's cover this one because I'm here and then we'll backtrack. All right, so under D on the agenda for new business there's a dance, I guess you'd call it a studio, that is requesting to use the town hall to conduct their classes. I have asked Connie to look into some issues with VLCT so that we have all of the answers, and this person who's asking could be here to answer any questions you might have. It may be a good idea, it may not, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had the chance to find out from the sources what they're asking for. My only concern is that we become landlords, and I'm not sure but we need that answer from the legal people. So look over that packet. It should be in your packet, and it sticks out. Not to me right this minute, but it does. And this is their request. Okay, so let's look at the local emergency management plan. That's done. Oh, there it is. So it's in the back of your package.
Sorry, so what are we doing with the dance request?
Just, I kind of want you to go home, read it through, think about it, think about whatever questions you might have, that type of thing, so that the person that's asking to do this, we can have some intelligent questions to ask them. And then we have to contact the LTC to see what our
I think
insurance
that is great. Could I request that maybe in the future we can do the same with the big report as well?
Which report?
The fire truck.
The fire truck.
Specs.
Like, I would love to be able to actually ask questions based on this.
Sure.
But I'm good on it.
Well,
but
again, the only thing you were
there's just
voting on.
a reading difference of the amount of, I skimmed the dance thing and got a sense of it. I didn't get a
Yeah, you're not going to, believe me.
Yeah.
The only thing you're voting on, as far as that, it wasn't yes or no, it was just, can we send these out to be?
No, yeah,
evaluated?
no, I understand. I'm just saying, in my reading ability,
Yeah, it
I
puts me to
appreciate,
sleep.
a little bit of digestion time.
Okay, so every year we're required by the state of Vermont to produce an emergency, what they call a local emergency management plan. It is, has to be adopted, or we lose out on funding if we have a disaster. Right now, if we have a disaster, the federal government covers so much of a percentage of that disaster. And as long as we've complied with having a local emergency management plan, having a waste disposal or management plan, we can avail ourselves of pretty close to full funding. It's a total of 17%, which would be our share. So we have $100,000 worth of damage. The federal government's going to pay 70 or 80% of it, and then the state, provided that you do this, will give up to 17%, and then we have to cover the rest. So that's what this is. It's, and honestly, these plans over the last, well, at least the last 3 or 4 years that I've been doing it, are pretty much a directory of who to call. They're not in depth. What happens when you have this or what happens when you have that, because quite honestly, you cannot plan for every single, what was that?
GPS. All
right, yeah, you cannot plan for every single circumstance. Every circumstance is different. So there's a listing of the different documents that we have to provide the state. There's also a delegation of authority letter that we have to sign. And basically what that does is delegates an emergency management director to become the incident commander in certain situations, and it gives the authority of the board to spend, or it gives the authority of the EMD to spend up to $15,000 per emergency without further approval of the board. And then if we exceed that, then the board has, at least 3 people have to be called together to decide how much more we're going to authorize. This has worked. This worked this last time when we had the flood in 2 years ago, and we tallied about $220,000 or $30,000 that we got back. But the initial response, we needed money available right then and there.
You might want to add the purpose being to provide funding for expenses directly related to the emergency for the $15,000.
We can do that. We can do that, certainly. It would, and basically what it does is it allows us to move forward. We get people that are in working, okay? We call together an emergency task group, and we need to feed them. We need to, you know, say we'd have to put them upstairs to sleep on a 12-on, 12-off schedule. We'd need money for that right off. We may not be able to get the board together in full to make a funding decision. So that's what that fund is for. It's not directly shown in the budget. We don't budget for it because the anticipation is that we are going to revamp or recoup those costs with the FEMA declaration that we'll be asking for. So that's essentially what it is.
So my understanding is it's sort of an overview of the management plan that includes the ability to spend $15,000 for costs related to the emergency without having to secure the board together to say.
Getting a quorum together.
Right.
And it's not something.
But that money would essentially be either reimbursed or like futurely put back in that place.
We would apply for, just like we did in the July storm, for funding. Mm-hmm. And we start a whole tracking line in the town budget for it. And everything that goes into that goes on that tracking line. We use this thing with COVID as well, in that we put money, we had initial expenses that went into those tracking lines within the emergency management budget, and then it was funded through the recoup of funds. In that particular case, we didn't get over the $3,300 necessary, so we just dedicated the budget that I get, the $2,500 budget that I get every year for emergency management to cover those costs. This is something that when you have a big problem, we need to be able to move quickly. And it will be out, it's all reported out in public, and it's documented in the town report when we do this. Okay? So what I need from the board is a motion to authorize the local emergency management plan for Townshend.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any further questions? Questions? Go ahead.
Not directly related to this per se, but everyone here should know that the emerald ash borer has been found in Townshend. Everyone knows what that means?
Not good.
Means that every ash tree will die, period. Many of them are in the right of way, meaning on roads, power lines, they will all die. So at some point in the not distant future, just imagine what emergencies will call us when all these things start to fall on the roads and power lines.
9% of the trees in the state of Vermont are ash trees, and from what I understand, which I'm not a professional so to speak, is that you're better off to take and cut the mature ash trees down with the idea that they're not going to get any better as far as a saw log, and to leave the younger ones that are not quite mature or even bigger and let's see what goes on. So your doom and gloom of just mow every ash tree down,
I didn't say that.
well, it shouldn't happen, but at the same time, you know, is it gonna wipe out everyone?
Think of every road in town, how much ash are along the roads?
9% of the trees in the state of Vermont are ash trees, thereabouts.
The thing is like during the, way back, was it the American chestnut? Way back when. It wasn't
1920s
liked
and 30s?
Of the American chestnut, and people made the mistake of cutting them all. And it turned out that they could have left some and they would have had a natural resistance. There will be trees that don't get it or are resistant to it, or maybe some other bug will come along and eat the ash borers, who knows. So it doesn't behoove us to cut them down, but I think it would behoove us to have someone go around and check these trees.
You need to go to a place that has had emerald ash borers, they're all gone. Every single ash is gone.
So is it better to jump out and cut them all down before they die, or is it easier to wait till they die and start cutting them out? And we still got to cut them down. We're gonna have there's going to be a cost related to
If
it.
you're asking me, ash is one of those trees that usually has a very nice crown, often has a very nice crown. When the tree is dead, it only takes 2 or maybe 3 years at the most for the ash borer to kill it. When that tree is dead, that's a really dangerous tree to be working on. So what some towns have done is they got tree crews to take the crown off of it, leaving 20, 30 feet for the town highway departments to handle at their leisure. Not at their leisure so much, but in
So
an
once the
organized
crown
way.
is gone, you're saying it's not as likely for the tree to just fall?
No, what I'm saying is once the crown is gone, it's safer to handle. A dead ash tree is very dangerous to work on, as is most dead trees.
Okay, let's move back to the emergency response plan because trees and forestry have nothing to do with that. So we have a motion, it's made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-0, Connie. All right. And just so you're aware, there has been forestry discussions about that issue, and they wanted us to take all of the trees within a certain right-of-way, or within the town's right-of-way on side roads, regardless of what they were, cut them all down, and we elected not to do it, and we're not gonna do it. So we'll have to go piece by piece and see what's, there was one town that actually did it. It cost them thousands and thousands of dollars. This was the recommendation by the state forester. They were
No way. No way.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I am, positive.
Okay.
100%.
Not gonna argue with you. So we have a executive session to go into. So I'd entertain a motion to enter executive session under, where is it? Connie, you have that statute.
That's cute.
Yes, here we go. VSA 313B to discuss a employee issue. Ooh. John, before you take off, did you want to say something?
No, we're okay.
You're okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Are you going to get that paperwork to me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Peace.
Have a good night.
Thanks for coming.
Take care.
Thanks for coming.
just so we can get this done, go ahead and, yeah, no, go ahead and shut down.
Did you guys approve the executive session and all that?
No,
moved it.
not yet.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we did. We're back in session. The discussion about offering a position has been completed, and we're offering a highway position to Jeremy Zambruski, to return to working for the town of Townsend. And at this point, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're good, thank you.